Well, hooly dooly, I've got a bit of a problem here. Just come into my greenhouse and I've just been confronted with my pond at a very low level. What you can see is I'm losing water somewhere. So first thing I do when I'm losing water, and it does happen from time to time, is try and figure out why. It's obvious, I know, but as you can see, I've lost water. The only reason I've still got fish alive is because of that pump is sitting on a brick sideways. So I've got this much water always in the pond at all times, and I'll never lose this much water, which means your fish will always stay alive. Now, not for long. It's only 8 o'clock in the morning here. If I discovered this at 12 o'clock, my goodness, they would all be dead because there's only this much water in the pond. The water in cans up here, tropics, gets hot real quick. So by about 10, 11 o'clock, they'd all be dead. So I'm glad I found it just now. I'm having a shocker today. But still got a lot of oxygen. You can see the water's still going back into that area. Now what's the problem? I can see the problem a mile away. Let's just have a look here behind me. And there must be some sort of blockage. You can see that these beds here, now I cleaned this out a few days ago, and you can see that second bed is absolutely overflowing. And if I have a look underneath, I'll take you underneath here, you can see the water just pooling, it's dripping. So if you have a look here, you can see where she's overflowing, and you can see the cause. So this tray here is creating the problem, and underneath that you can see what the issue is. So you can see all this is an aquarium weed. That's a very big problem for me. It got introduced into my system, and that blocks up some of my pipes sometimes. But have a look at that. So I've got a cap on the end so that I don't suck up too many fish. But what's happened is that cap has been blocked, therefore the water's not traveling down into this bed. Now it is, I can feel that. Now I can see it's coming out, I can feel it. And you can see it actually coming through my hand there. And the bubble's coming up. So if I block that off for a second, there's a bit of an air gap in there. Okay, now it's flowing a lot quicker. And you can see that water level is going down real quick. So, crisis diverted, but it's never good when this happens. It's never a good feeling. I came in just in time. I didn't expect to see this in the morning, but that's why you need to check. That's why if you clean something, like all these grow beds, these deep water culture floating rafts that are made up, if you clean them and pull out things and adjust things, well, you've just got to keep checking the system. If you leave it alone, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, nothing's going to happen. But its roots, it's this sort of aquarium weed that gets in there. And the reason I've got that aquarium weed is because I've gone and put it in there. I was at one point selling this weed at $10 a handful. It's a very expensive weed in a pet shop, but I'm not going to do that. And actually I stopped doing that as like maybe 2 or 3 months after I first put it in there, because I noticed that it was starting to clog the pipes up. Anyway, never introduce aquarium weed into your system. So you can see this weed, it's never going to stop growing unless I replace the gravel or dry it all out anyway. It just grows everywhere. And there's not much you can do about it once it's in there. But you can see the water level now is receding. It's traveling, in this case, to this one, and have a look at that. Same problem. Now I've got duckweed, which can't get through. Normally it goes through, but look at that. I've still got the same issue. So I open that up, take that off, and I'll have to clean this one as well. There's 1 or 2 snails as well that's causing me an issue. So it can happen to all of us. Okay, so now that's flowing a lot freer as well. And what I do too is I never glue these things on. So for such occasions like this, I want it to rapidly go out of this tank and fill my pond up really quickly, at least and then I'll top it up with rainwater. But you can see what I've done here. I've got a 50mm pipe going into 40mm and then into a 25mm. And that easily comes on and off. I don't want it always going out at 50 because it's just too much water going into the main pond. So, I mean, that's a real life example for me in my backyard when I'm just trying to show you what not to do. So the number one thing what not to do is don't add this any fish tank sort of weed, Java moss or anything else into your system, because it's just going to end in disaster. And always check your floating raft beds. While I'm talking about things what not to do and things to look out for, really. Look, yesterday when I did clean these floating raft beds, I pulled out some roots. I've got some spinach, this is a Brazilian type spinach. Now, typically they have a lot of roots, and essentially what you need to do is just lift up the trays every now and again, put your hand in there and feel around and see what you find. Well, this is one of the things that I found yesterday. Huge big root mass, big one. And here's an even bigger one. Can you believe it? Look at the size of that. Now that's all roots and snails. Again, don't add snails into your system if you can help it. I didn't deliberately, somehow they came in on my plants. But can you believe it? Look at the size of that. Now I found that coming out of this pipe here. So I'll just put it back in and show you. If you can imagine, I've got an overflow pipe. You just imagine this coming out of that overflow pipe there. Now that's connecting the two beds. So check your pipes. Big rule, check your pipes. Make sure you don't have any sort of root mass like this. It's gonna wreck your day, it's gonna empty your pond, for sure. Everything will overflow. So these are some of the little tips that you just need to be aware of. Aquaponics is fantastic, but you don't wanna lose fish. So just a little bit of maintenance, that's all. The water is now flowing back into here. As you can see, the fish will get happier and happier by the second. And I'm also going to add some more water as well. Now I'm also going to take this opportunity and just clean the pump for a little bit. Now the pump's exposed, really easy for me to clean, so I just brush it with this and clean any algae or anything out of the pump. And that will reduce the problems for later. What I'll also do is just use a bit of a sponge as well. It's a little bit finer, and that'll just help me clean the pump a little bit more. So by using the two different techniques there, the brush and also a sponge, yeah, I've cleaned it up pretty well. You can see the water level is about the same height as most of my fish. Make sure you got a lot of oxygen. So as you can see, I've got air stones working. The pump is overflowing and working, adding oxygen. I've got the other beds adding oxygen. There's oxygen being added at all locations. And that overflow pipe just there is something, I've just turned on the tap, but I haven't opened up my tank. So I'm going to open up the tank now. I've opened up the valve, and rainwater that fell last night's going to fill the pond. Okay, so lucky for me, I've got rainwater storage behind me. You've probably seen a video that I've made on that, how to create your own rainwater storage. But all I have to do and fix my pond is open up a few taps here. I've opened up that valve, and now I'll open up the IBC valve. And now I can hear the water running, traveling down that pipe. It's going underground all the way to the greenhouse. And that's what you want. You want some sort of water storage system like this. This is where I grow all my seedlings as well on top most of the time. Now I will paint those eventually. I haven't done that yet. I've been sitting there for about 6 months. One of those jobs to do. But look, I'm not too stressed about it now. The point is, you need some sort of water storage system. If you've got that, when these little tiny problems happen, you won't stress as frequently. Because it can be a bit of a stressful experience if you find that you've got no water. Now I'm just walking down to my greenhouse now. As you can see, all my other traditional gardens in the background here. And then this is the greenhouse. This is where it all happens. So, come back in here, walk back down through here, and you can see how the water is flowing out. And it's just pure rainwater straight into the pond. So easy, I can turn it on, turn it off so quickly. And that's what you want, that sort of system, so that you can easily turn it on and off. If you don't have rainwater tapped ready to go, put it on the agenda, something to do. If you've got a larger system, you need a backup and you need to be able to do it quickly. If you don't have it, just use a hose. A lot of people are hesitant to use a hose. Typically most towns and cities in Australia have got chlorine added into the water. Chlorine is toxic to the fish as well, so that's a big consideration. But in my case, I've got 10,000 litres flowing around here. If I was to put another 1,000 litres of chlorine in the water, the fish would still be okay, because the water's circulating and there's another 10,000 litres of water running around. So I'm just going to watch this and fill up, and hopefully you've learned something, learn from my mistakes. Hey, occasionally things happen. There's not much you can do about it. If it was a very controlled environment in a shed and you had your own farm, and you're always constantly checking it 24 hours a day, or at least you got staff or something like that, you won't have these issues. You can see now the water's starting to fill up. Won't be long. Okay, so the fish are getting happier by the second. It is increasing. I'm just putting another 1,000 litres in, essentially, and look, everything's going as it should. Okay, it is starting to get hot now. It's about 9 o'clock, and I've just had to change tanks and add an extra water into this system, because it is around about 1,000 litres that I'm adding in. And the first tank only had 500 litres in it from last night's rain. So luckily I've got a 3,000 litre capacity there, just in case. I purely use it just for the garden and to fill the tanks up when necessary, like this. But as you can see in the background there, the pond is slowly rising and the fish are getting happier by the second. So look, the key is with any of these sort of things, just don't panic, don't stress out. Just try and build into your system some sort of way of future-proofing it. So I guarantee you that if this happened to you and your pond emptied overnight, then you would then go, oh, okay, how can I fix that? And that's what I do, and that's how I've developed this system over the years. And I've built a lot of other people's systems far greater than my system, because I've put all the redundancies into other people's systems so that they never make the mistakes that I've made. It's a bit hard once you've already got a system established. You really just need to just keep adding onto it, keep tweaking it, keep changing it as you can. So after a few minutes of me just cleaning out these top trays, you can see that the water is flowing as it should. There's no real drama there. Nothing's overflowing. Let's have a look. Yeah, nothing's overflowing. Look, I need to replant everything, and I will do that very soon. But the main thing is nothing's overflowing. And even now, I can see that my cap there is starting to fill up again with that green weed. So what I need to do is pull all the weed out. So I will suck the bottom, and I will I'll scrub the sides as well, and I'll get rid of all of that weed that's in there. And it will take me probably an hour to do, but these are things sometimes that you just have to do. I've helped you to just think about some future redundancy issues, and certainly don't add any sort of aquarium weed into your system. You can see on the bottom and on the sides here, I've got sediments building up, and I've also got some of that weed growing, and snails growing around the edges. So you're just going to have to get all that out. So I'm speaking to myself here. I'm just going to have to physically pull all that out to avoid getting clogged again. There's a lot of snails there. Those snails have been introduced through some plants that I purchased. So we're nearly there. And you can see how all the pond liner as well is starting to sit back down again too, which is good. Because under the weight of the water, extra water coming in, it's just starting to settle where it should be. And all that white stuff is dry algae. Fish is certainly starting to get happier now. Much happier fish. As it's filling up, much happier fish. So I didn't lose a fish, that's the main thing. And we've all learned a lesson. But look, no harm done, the fish are alive, and that's how we roll. If you make a mistake, you fix it. If there's an issue, you fix it. And very soon you'll have a future-proof aquaponics system that will just feed your family or business for a very long time to come. And look, you make a lot of money from it as well. You save money and make money. So these little issues will hit us all. But at the end of the day, don't lose heart, don't be discouraged. Keep rolling on, and you'll have a fantastic system. All right, so that looks about right. That looks about right. It's pretty much to capacity. I think actually the water stopped, so that's perfect. If the water stopped, that's as much as I need. Fish are very happy. Hey, thanks for watching and joining me today. Look, if you'd like to see some more maintenance type videos on aquaponics, then I think you might enjoy this video right about here somewhere, where I go through some other maintenance tips that are going to help you as well. So be sure to check that out. Until then, happy aquaponics.